Why do we procrastinate so much? You know you have that deadline coming up, you know you should be losing weight, or you know you should be taking advantage of the time that you have, but for some reason you just can't bring yourself to do it. Why is that? And it's not always because you're lazy, although for some people that could be the reason, but it actually comes down to how your brain is wired to behave and respond. And in today's video, I want to show you exactly what's happening in your brain that causes you to procrastinate, but I also want to give you 4 really powerful tools and strategies that you can use to finally break the chain of procrastination. Now, the key to understanding why we procrastinate really comes down to understanding that our brain is wired to value time differently. In behavioral psychology, we call this time inconsistency. And basically, it's a fancy way for saying that your brain values time differently. And the way to kind of phrase this is you have 2 sides to you. There's the present self, the one that's valuing the here, the now, the what's going on immediately around you, instant gratification. And then there's also the future you, which is the part of you that's really able to plan for the future, create goals, have dreams, have a vision for what you want in your future and plan for those goals and really value that time. Now, as you can imagine, those 2 are at odds with one another. So let me give you an example of how this works. Let's say I had a goal I wanted to lose 30 pounds. Let's say. The future me would say, oh, well, I definitely want to lose that 30 pounds. It's going to really help in every aspect of my life. I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to look great. I'm going to feel great. Like, I need to be able to do this now, because if I don't do it now, it's really going to affect the future that I want to have. And also, it's going to affect so many other aspects of my life. The present you looks at that and says, well, I also see a Reese's peanut butter cup right there. That looks delicious. I want it right now. So even though the future part of you knows that your goal is to lose weight for your future, the present you right now is saying that Reese's looks good and wants that instant gratification. Weight loss seems so far away, but Reese's are so close. Now, as you can imagine, for most of us, we are wired to value the instant gratification so much more. And that is why so many of us procrastinate, is because we value the right here and now. Maybe you have that project coming up or that deadline that's reaching, but right now, there's so many other things that seem much more enticing than doing that project or taking care of that deadline that you have coming up, or maybe writing that paper, writing that book. There are so many other things that are taking our focus away from the future that we'd much rather do right now. So now you're probably thinking, well, if that's the way my brain has been wired to respond, if our brain is wired to respond more to instant gratification, how do we flip the script? If we want to stop procrastinating, we got to teach our brain and train our brain to be able to value the future self, to value the future goals and the habits that we want, and spin it on its axis. So how do we do that? One of the first ways you can do that is to actually create consequences for not taking action that is better for your future. And so that's essentially, if you know you have that deadline or that project coming up and you need to take action today, you need to take action tonight, then you need to have consequences if you don't take that action. Now, those consequences are going to be up to you, but they need to be something that's actually a consequence. It needs to be something that actually kind of ruffles your feathers a little bit. And one of the best ways to create consequences is actually to find an accountability partner. I find that with any goal, if I have an accountability partner, somebody who knows what I'm trying to pursue and knows the goals that I have, or better yet, is on that same trajectory with me and is pursuing the same thing, whether it's going to the gym with me, I find if I bail on them, I feel worse. That's a consequence to me to bailing on my friend and bailing on my accountability partner. So a simple way to create a consequence is to have an accountability partner who you're trusting yourself with, because it's going to make sure that you actually take action, because not only are you going to let yourself down, you definitely don't want to let your partner down. Now, for some of us, we respond better to consequences, whereas some of us, we respond better to reward. We like to be rewarded for taking action rather than having consequences for not taking action. If you're one of those people and having consequences really doesn't motivate you to take action, then maybe rewards will. And some of that could be just having rewards for taking the action that you want. Maybe it's Reese's. Unless your goal is weight loss, then Reese's probably isn't the key for you. But you want to create a reward system in place so that when you take the action that's necessary, you have a reward on the other end of that. Maybe that's taking a trip. If you finish that deadline early, or you finish that project or book early, maybe that means you get to take a little day trip, or you get to go do something fun or do something that you think is really valuable, go play golf, whatever that might be for you. Create a reward that entices your brain to take action and bring that future into the now. Now, the third way to stop the procrastination cycle is to take a big project or the thing that you're working on or working towards and break it down into much more smaller, bite-sized chunks. You know, if you say, okay, your goal is to eat an elephant, If you just look at the big elephant, you say, oh my God, that seems impossible. That's way too much. Or take the Great Wall of China. You look at the big wall and you go, oh my gosh, how in the world am I going to tackle this? But as with anything else, it's taken one bite at a time or one brick at a time. So if you can take it into bite-sized chunks, that's going to make it much more easier to digest, pun intended, and much more manageable for your brain to tackle. It's not going to seem as looming, it's not going to seem as difficult, and it's going to be easier for your brain to engage. So the goal with this is to take that big looming project or thing that you have to do and break it down into daily bite-sized chunks that just make it so much easier. If you say my goal is to run 20 miles this week, okay, well if you think, oh my gosh, well I got to run 10 miles day one, 9 miles on another day, all of a sudden you're starting to think that's a huge challenge. Whereas if you can just say, I'm going to tackle 1 mile here, 2 miles here, that's much more easily attained, and your brain is going to be able to engage in that easier without having to procrastinate. So now we've gone over step number 3. Step number 4 is going to transition right off of step number 3, and that's to create a plan based on those bite-sized chunks. Now it's one thing to know, okay, I just have to tackle these small little chunks, but you can still procrastinate even on those small little chunks. So the goal is, now that you've created those small little bite-sized pieces that you got to break off, now the goal is to create a plan to tackle each one of those, whether that's daily, weekly, whatever that might be. You want to create a decisive plan that you know you can commit to. The nice thing about this is, instead of having to plan for a 5-hour block of time or an 8-hour block of time where you're going to have to tackle the whole thing at once, now you can just say, okay, I'm going to tackle 30 minutes here, an hour here, maybe 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, whatever it is. That is so much easier to do on a regular basis, and it's not going to seem as difficult for your brain to accomplish. And it's much more easy to squeeze that into your schedule than to try to block off an entire 6-hour block of time to tackle the entire project or goal in and of itself. So the ideal way to stop procrastination is to really create a plan that uses all 4 of these strategies, so that way you can ensure you're not hitting procrastination every single time you try to accomplish a project or a goal. Because if you do procrastinate the little things, that's going to transition into the big things. So if you can start applying this now, even in your little goals and the little things that you have, it's going to transition into the big projects and the big goals that you have for your life. So hopefully you found this useful and helpful for breaking that procrastination cycle. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up over there so people know this is a good video that will help with their procrastination. And also, if you're new to this channel and you like videos like this on using your brain to better your life, then make sure you click that subscribe button over there, because that's going to let you know the next time we come out with an amazing video like this one. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I'll see you guys in the next video.